elsewhere after that?
No, we definitely want guys that can score the basketball. What we like to add is we like to add 2 more perimeter players. We want somebody that can really attack off the bounce and create offense. I don't think we have a lot of guys on our team that are great as far as like attacking and making individual plays. So we like to have somebody that's really hard to keep out of the paint. We also want that person to be able to shoot the basketball as well. And then the next person, we just want a good perimeter basketball player because I think that you're seeing in the OVC, most of the so-called 4-man or power forwards are guys that are really not power forwards and 4-man. They're more perimeter guys, a 4 out, 1 in that can really attack, off the bounce, similar to like a Howard at UT Martin, guys that can make those plays, at Eastern Illinois, Trey Anderson, those type of guys that can go out and make plays. So one, you need guys that can guard those type of players. And then 2, you need somebody that holds them accountable on the other end. So, we're really looking for that as well. But I think that we've got our hooks and some good players. Now it's just trying to deliver them.
All right. With the loss to Murray State, the way everything shook out, you are no longer going to make the OVC tournament. It was going to take probably a really strong run here down the stretch. When you are talking to recruits, does that hurt or help you as far as, you're dealing with recruits? Because you're gonna be up against other schools that are saying, hey, they're not even going to their conference tournament.
Yeah. Well, I think it's two-way street. I think, first of all, you can talk about, the immediate need for them to come in and help you ascend to where you want to be at. And so I think a lot of times what these kids are looking for, they want a chance to come in and have a chance to contribute right away. And I think they can see in our situation, they can come in and help turn the program around and be a guy who was a major contributor to us getting back to where we need to be at in contention for OVC title. So I think that's appealing to a lot of kids. Then some kids, what they're looking for is they're looking for a team that's already an established winner. So I think it's your job as a recruiter to find out what makes that particular young man, click. And so if you find out that, he doesn't want to be part of a rebuilding situation or wants to go into some place where they're already winning, then you probably need to hitch your wagon to somebody else. But I think for a lot of these kids, they're really not concerned about that. They're concerned more about like themselves as far as like how they fit in and what they can do and their availability for opportunity to play right away.
And an opportunity to help you be successful because let's face it, I mean, there are a lot of teams bunched up in the OVC West. Nobody has really taken charge of that division. So anybody that's looking at it say, hey, that thing's up for grabs, right?
Yeah, and I think what you can do is you can point to some of the games that we played against people that's in contention. You look at UT Martin, who might win our side. Well, we beat UT Martin. You look at Murray State and how we played against them on our home court. How close we played at Eastern Illinois and have another opportunity to get there. So you can say like, hey, this is where we are. But like, look how close we are. And if we can add a few pieces, to where we are, you can be a main ingredient to helping us ascend. And I think, one thing you talk to about these recruits is like, being a part of somebody who comes in and makes a program turn around and takes them to heights they've never been before, you'll be remembered in the annals of history in that program for a long time. If you're part of a factory where, hey, they're winning, it becomes almost passe and commonplace, you'll get remembered, but not the way you'll get remembered if you come someplace and now you take them to an NCAA tournament, you take them to an OVC, championship. Now you'll go down in the history and everybody will remember you were part of that team.
Does the facelift at the Show Me Center, does that help in your recruiting? Are you seeing that? Are people a little bit more wowed? Because I'm talking to radio broadcasters and SIDs that are coming in the Show Me Center. It was already a nice facility, but it's got a little bit more of a wow factor now because we've been in every building in the OVC. There's a wow factor at the Show Me Center now.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think anytime you're talking about that wow factor, anytime a young man sets foot on the campus, you better have a wow factor, whether it be the place you play, your locker room, the weight room. There's got to be something there where they walk into that particular athletic facility and they're blown away by the appearance of it and how nice it is. And for us, there's no question about it. The showpiece for us is the Show Me Center. When we bring a young man in there and his family in there, and they see like the effort and the money and the commitment that's been placed into the Show Me Center as part of the basketball program, it really means a lot. So, I think there's no question about it, with the new scoreboard and the new additions and the seating, that it really makes sure, like, and just the lighting. I think that's a significant difference as well
Huge,
too.
huge.
But when I think a young man walks in there and he sees a place that we compete in basketball, I think he can't help but to be impressed.
Now, the weight room was a $500,000 endeavor. What kind of comments are you getting about guys when you're running them through that brand new eye-popping weight room?
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to take guys to it for the most part because they come over to games and we don't get a chance to run them over there. But, now with our season coming to an end, we'll start having more official visits and unofficial visits. And obviously we've seen everything ourselves and seen graphics of it. But I tell you this, that's going to be a place where they spend a lot of time. And wherever they spend a lot of time, you better make sure it's nice. And so it's a huge upgrade. And I think it's going to be a benefit to our recruiting efforts, but not just to our recruiting efforts. The best recruits that you have are the guys already on campus. And now our current team is going over there and they're working out in a nice facility. And I think it makes a huge difference. And not just the way it looks, but the functionality of it as well, too.
Coach Rick Ray joining us. It's the Colfeld Distributing Redhawks Coaches Show. We're at Wings, etc. in Cape Girardeau. Redhawks have just 2 more home games, and they will be Thursday and Saturday as Southeast hosts SIU Edwardsville Thursday, and then Eastern Illinois comes in for Hall of Fame weekend on Saturday, doubleheader 2 and 4:15. You mentioned Denzel Mahoney, the 8A Player of the Year down in the state of Florida, not playing right now because of a torn ACL. You have suffered a knee injury yourself. Now, it was a basketball injury. Take us through that, and now I guess you kind of know what it's like to be dealing with potential surgery.
Yeah, I think classifying anything that I do as basketball would be a little bit of a stretch. So
a basketball was involved.
Yes.
It was in the picture.
Yes. But we don't know exactly what it is for sure. I still have to get an MRI, but just came back from the doctor's office. I actually was out recruiting. Got back this morning about 4:30 in the morning and had a morning appointment and said it was about 80% sure that it was an ACL. So once we get an MRI, we'll be able to determine exactly what it is. But they thought at that point in time it was just a meniscus, but their fear is a little bit, more than that to it. So, this is something like kind of when it rains, it pours. But I think I'll be fine with it. Just got to figure it out if I want to continue to like this to be a jogger or if I want to be a guy that's going to play some racquetball the rest of my life.
You just don't strike me as a solo jogger. Am I right?
Yeah. I tell you what, one of the scariest things that I ever see is those night joggers. Like, when it's like, 10 o'clock at night and you're driving home, you see those night joggers. Those guys scare me.
All right, Rick Ray, potential night jogger. We'll see how it all comes out. But all of a sudden, you may be thrust into a scenario, if it is a major issue where you undergo a major surgical procedure, where all of a sudden you would have firsthand knowledge of what some of these guys are going through, what it takes to rehab, and the commitment that it takes to really get your way back. And I know sometimes coaches – not throwing you in there, but some coaches, guys who are in the training room a lot and are limping a lot or nicks and bruises, all of a sudden the coaches sometimes get a little fatigued with that. Maybe that gives you a different outlook on some of these things.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever watched HBO Hard Knocks, but I watched that there, and it was the special teams coach, and I think it's Mike Zimmer now who's the head coach with the Minnesota Vikings, and he was walking by the line of guys that weren't able to participate in practice, and they were on bikes and doing rehab and what have you. And one of the players, stuck his hand out to shake his hand and say, "What's up, coach?" He says, "You injured?" He said, "You injured?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't talk to injured guys." So, he just
that's
kept
the way
going.
It is, though, a lot of times.
and so, but now you can kind of empathize, with some of the things they're going through. If you're involved in athletics, and you're involved in the season, just injuries become part of it. And I think especially in football, You see the guys that stay kind of injury free are the guys that end up, doing well. You look at the Carolina Panthers; they had that major, injury to their starting wide receiver. And then beyond that, they didn't have any other injuries throughout the course of the season that were major. So that played a huge part in their success. So sometimes, just not having that attrition throughout the course of the season really helps you. But, I don't want to have to empathize with my players by being injured. I'd much rather just try to figure out, like, hey, I empathize with you without the injury.
All right. We got to know what kind of comments from the peanut gallery were you getting when you went down with a knee injury and they see you limping along in there?
Well, I tell you what, when it first happened, I didn't think it was a big deal. I just thought I kind of hyperextended my knee, and I just kept on with practice, like it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't until the day after that they realized that it was, serious. So they just thought it was, hey, I just kind of tweaked my knee and was moving on. So throughout the course of the practice, I was still fine. There was nothing that was noticeable right then and there. So I didn't go down like I was shot or, was a sniper up in the roof. But it was something there that they didn't get a chance to see it.
So, but the next day when your knee's the size of a small melon, then you knew, this could be something.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, they were pretty excited about the fact that I couldn't move up and down around practice and, chase them and hold them accountable. So for some defensive stance and jumping to the ball and moving to the ball and those types of things. So, the less that you can coach, it's better for the players. So they were excited about that aspect of it.
All right. We just got word Jamal Calvin has some class commitments, so he's not going to join us. So, just you and me.
Well, I tell you what, if Jamal says he got class commitments, I mean, believe me, he's got class commitments. He just does an outstanding job in the classroom, and you always want to have guys like that on your team. He's a conscientious student. He's not here just to play basketball. I mean, he's taking like difficult courses. He just was taking business stats too. He's had accounting. He's taking management courses, and he does most of these things without any sort of assistance, without tutors, without any help at all. So he's a guy that kind of figures things out on his own. So he's a really conscientious student, and I tell you what, he does a great job in the classroom. And he's one of those guys that you want intrinsic motivation. He never has to have any sort of motivation. You never have to push him in practice. You don't have to push him off the court. Everything he does is through self-motivation.
Yeah, it's too bad. I was looking forward to talking with him. He's a fun guy to talk to, communications major. And for those who don't know, outside of being an academic All-American, the highest honor you can have in your conference, in this conference, is to be an OVC Medal of Honor winner. There's one guy like that in a sport. And a guy who you may go years without having an OVC Medal of Honor winner on your roster, he's an OVC Medal of Honor winner, elite of the elite as far as in the classroom and athletics.
Yeah, and I think that's something he should really be proud of. I mean, not just because of like what he's done, in regards to academics, but he's doing it in a difficult field. I think he's in something specific in regards to business communications. It's not just communications. It's some like I don't know the exact title of what it is, but I think Jamal is a guy that's doing it just because he wants to be successful. He's not doing it for accolades. He's not doing it for honors, but because of that motivation, he's done a great job with it.
I wanted to ask him because I noticed that C.J. Carr, the 5'7" point guard, and I've talked to Jamal about Carr before about how quick he is and how tough it is to stay in front of him. I noticed that Carr is no longer the starter, and they're bringing in a transfer from South Dakota State, Josh White, and White is listed at 6'1", and Jamal is listed at 6'1". I wanted to get eye-to-eye contact if he really believes he's 6 feet 1 inches tall. That was a question I couldn't wait to ask him.
Yeah, now Jamal Calvin is not 6'1". If Jamal Calvin's 6'1", then I'm about 6'6".
Yeah.
I'd give him 6 foot.
Okay.
If you
in
told
shoes or not in shoes?
I'm shoes.
Okay.
Shoes. I don't understand the measurement without shoes. I mean, you play basketball with shoes. I mean, so like they were saying, like, he's 6'6" without shoes. Well, when he plays basketball, does he have shoes on? I mean, so like we measure with shoes on, but I wouldn't like fight you if you said he was 6 foot. But if you said he was 5'11", I wouldn't fight you either.
Okay. So, and we'll talk more about SIU Edwardsville, a team that you have already recorded a victory over. They had really been struggling. Then suddenly they go to Eastern Illinois. They've never won in Charleston, ever. and they go and knock off Eastern Illinois on Saturday. That was a pretty big upset for them.
Yeah, it's a huge win. I tell you, that gives a lot of credit to John, to have your team where they are at this point in time, similar to where we are, and still competing and fighting, and then go into a place like Eastern Illinois where they never won before and come out of there with a victory. Just as a lot of kudos to him and his staff for keeping that team fighting and believing what they're trying to do.
And you're speaking of John Harris, who was an Edwardsville native, former, I actually scored over 1,200 points in high school, St. Louis Post-Dispatch Player of the Year, played with Dwayne Wade at Marquette. They finished 9th in the nation, his senior year there with Dwayne Wade. So he's done a lot of good things in basketball as a player. And then I guess the last 7 seasons he has been with your buddy, Conzo Martin, first at Missouri State, then Tennessee, and then last year at Cal when Martin got the job out there. And you're buddies with Conzo Martin, having coached with him. So that has put you in contact with John Harris a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you talk to John will say that Dwayne Wade played with him.
I got you.
So I just want to make sure we clarify that in John's eyes. That's what he would say. But I've gotten a chance to know John because of his relationship with, working with Conzo Martin. And I know Conzo thought a lot of him. And, it said to me that somewhere down the line that John is going to be a head coach. He thought that much of him. And so for Conzo to speak that highly of him, and Conzo really values morals, doing things the right way, and not just being a guy that can go out and get players or a guy that can X's and O's. But he thought that John was a complete package because he could relate to players, had a great rapport with the players, did a great job on a recruiting trail, knew his X's and O's, but was a family man. Really took care of his business off the court, was a great role model for his players. So, he thought somewhere down the line that he would be, a college basketball coach, a head coach, and for him to be able to go back home. And when SIU Edwardsville opened up, and, I know Lennox Forrester, I've known him for a long time, back when the day he was an assistant coach at Evansville and working for Jim Cruz, and I was at Indiana State. So you never want to see somebody let go in this business. But it's really fortunate that John had a chance to become a head coach.
And respect to Lennox Forrester. It is not easy to transition a Division II program into Division I status. First of all, you're on probation forever. You can't compete in the conference tournament. You're not eligible for the NCAA tournament. That's a tough transition Lennox Forrester brought the Cougars through.
Yeah, it really is. And, people don't understand not just the financial commitment to it, but the change of perception of being a Division II program, any sort of a transition from a so-called, mid-major to a high major and those types of things. It's not just the financial part of it, but it's also changing the perception of what type of program you are. So, I think Lennox is a really good coach. And, there's a lot of really good coaches that unfortunately don't end up winning in particular situations. I mean, Bill Belichick, who was probably the greatest football coach in the history of mankind, didn't win with the Cleveland Browns and figured a way out. So, everything changes. And I think that, hopefully Lennox gets another chance, but I think John will do a good job there.
And when you look around the OVC, SIU Edwardsville, one of those teams that has an advantage over some other programs, they do not have to fund a football program. More money can go to the basketball program. Belmont falls in that category as well. That's an advantage if you're a head coach at a place that doesn't have football, right?
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, you look at, one of the things people always look at is Xavier. Why is Xavier so good? Well, one of the reasons why Xavier is so good is because, they don't have football. And so because of the reason they don't have football, that is their flagship sport, and they're able to put a lot of money and a lot of funds and a lot of time into their basketball program. And also with SIU Edwardsville, their proximity to St. Louis, which we know is a hotbed of talent. And so being able to go there and get a chance to recruit the St. Louis area is also an advantage as well.
Yeah, the same advantage University of Kansas has. They don't have a football program. At least that's the word on the street. They don't win any games. All right, let's take a timeout here. We got more with Coach Rick Ray. How about the SIU Edwardsville Cougars? How did the Redhawks beat them the first time? And what is the game plan here coming up against SIUE on Thursday night? And I don't know if you saw the finish of some of these OVC games on Saturday. It was remarkable. What a night of college basketball, one of the best in a long time in the Ohio Valley Conference. We'll recap, get Coach Ray's thoughts on the OVC races and those finishes from Saturday night. More with Coach Ray. We're at Wings, etc. in Cape. It's the Kohlfeld Distributing Redhawks Coaches Show on SEMO ESPN.
Been growing Wings, etc. See, Wings, etc. has those award-winning jumbo wings. They're popular for both dine-in and carry-out. Now, the word is getting out about Wings, etc.'s appetizer lineup. From the ultimate nachos to the deep-fried pickle spears, frankly, they're irresistible. Friends are sharing time together at Wings, etc. They've got dining rooms filled with HD TVs tuned to the best sports programming, including NFL Sunday Ticket. The people at the next table are talking about Wings, etc.'s daily half-pound lunch special, starting at just $6.49. Plus, Wings, etc. has food and drink specials throughout the week, including 59-cent wings every Monday. Plus, there's the kids menu, and Wings, etc. is family-friendly with video games in the dining room. And the whole community is excited about how Wings, etc. is locally owned and operated, and they're proud to support local athletes, their families, schools, and teams. I guess Wings, etc. is a really big deal around here.
You're grilling for everyone on game day, and people are hungry. More than that, they're hangry, and it's 95 degrees out, and they're thirsty. That's right, people are thrangry. They need to chill, and that gives you an idea. You remember Coors Light is filtered and bottled cold, so you pass some cold ones out. Suddenly, it's like they're snowboarding in the majestic Rocky Mountains, speeding away from the peaks of Thrangry and down the slopes of yes. So they make with the cheering and let you get with the grilling. Well done. Now it's time for your Coors Light. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Great beer, great responsibility.
Hey, here's a stunner. Ford F-Series is America's best-selling brand of trucks again. The same brand that's been America's favorite since your dad had hair is #1 again? Yeah, who could have seen that coming? And it wasn't even close. What's kept Ford F-Series on top for 39 years straight? Game-changing innovation, pal. Like the high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy in the F-150. You may have noticed the competition came up short again. Ford F-Series, F-150, Super Duty, making every other truck brand history.
And now, your ESPN Radio Network local weather forecast.
National Weather Service looking at rain showers on and off today. Clouds and a high near 40 degrees. Tonight, mostly cloudy down to 31. 46 clouds and sunshine tomorrow. And sunny, warming to 57 on Thursday. 68 breezy and sunny on Friday. 66 sunshine on Saturday. Should be great. Right now, a chance of rain Sunday with a high of 62.
You're up to date with the latest weather forecast right here on the ESPN Radio Network. This is your local home for Mike and Mike, the Sports Huddle, and all your favorite teams. Get it all right here.
Makes my day go great.
On the SEMO ESPN Sports Network.
It's the Kohlfeld Distributing Redhawks Coaches Show with head coach Rick Ray. We are here every Tuesday during basketball season from noon until 1. We're at the Cape Girardeau location of Wings, etc. You still got time to get by here. Join us for lunch or enjoy lunch after we get out of here. They have their half-pound lunch specials, and those start at just $6.49. And all the food that you're going to get for $6.49, one of the best values in Cape Girardeau County. Food and drink specials, they have those throughout the week. Their 59-cent wings are on Mondays, and parents, kids are catered to here at Wings, etc. They have a terrific kids menu. They're open 7 days a week. And because the games run late, Wings open late on the weekend as well. Jamal Calvin was supposed to join us. He's got class commitments, so we go extra here with Coach Ray today as the Redhawks get ready for the SIU Edwardsville Cougars. And, Coach, you beat them on January 28th at the Vidal Bean Center by a score of 58-51. One of the big numbers in the second half of the basketball game. You outscore them 21-11 from the free throw line in the second half of the game. I mean, that game was won because of your defense, obviously, but it was won at the free throw line. You haven't won a lot of games at the free throw line this year. That one was won from the stripe.
Yeah, you know, the key for us, I thought, in that game was not just getting to the free throw line, but getting to the free throw line and having success. And so we did a really good job of attacking the basket, getting the ball inside, dribble penetration, especially when we got down there. And once we got down, I thought we had to make a concerted effort to get into the free throw line, because when you're down, the best way to get back into a basketball game is a score when the clock is stopped. And the only way to do that is at the free throw line. And so we made that adjustment and really put our guys in attack mode. We have a dribble drive offense that we call forward bounce. So we wanted our guys coming off ball screens and just attacking and getting the ball to the paint. And so our guys did a good job of that.
Well, one thing that happens when you get into the paint against a team that has shot blockers and they lead the league in blocks, you get some shots blocked. You had 10 shots blocked in that game. And if there's ever going to be a deterrent for attacking the rim, it's when you constantly get shots sent back and out of bounds and back in your face. It did not deter your team. Michael Chandler had 8 blocks by himself, a prolific junior college shot blocker. That's the most of any player in the OVC in any game this year. Didn't deter your team from continuing to attack.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference in the way that they blocked shots. I didn't think they blocked a lot of shots when we were attacking the paint off the drive. I thought they blocked a lot of our shots when we had our back to the basket post moves. And we tried to make sure we got this point across to our guys. They have long post defenders. They're starting. I'm sure I can't pronounce his name, but he's 6'11". And so to try to back down a guy that's 6'11" just doesn't make any sense at all. And not only when you back him down, but like also Chandler and guys like that are coming from the weak side to try to block your shot when you're backing down. The whole gym knows you're shooting. So we talked to our guys about using, this is a kind of a antiquated term, but the Jack Sigma move, where you want to turn and face, and guys like Trey and Joel using their quickness, to go around those guys, but you can't back those guys down. So I thought most of their block shots came from our post guys, trying to make back to the basket moves instead of our perimeter guys attacking the basket.
Their 6'10" center's name is Yemi Makanjula, and he's from Lagos, Nigeria. The one thing, he is attackable because not only is he first in the league in fouling out of games, he has fouled out 9 times more than anybody in the league. He's third in the league in committing personal fouls. On paper, a guy you can attack a little bit.
Yeah, he's a guy that really, when it's all said and done, is a good defender. But he's probably a little bit over aggressive. And I think sometimes because of his size and strength, it ends up hurting him at times, because I think some of those that are probably not fouls, but he's such a long kid. He's such an aggressive kid. He's such a strong kid that oftentimes when people meet, they go the other way and he's standing there strong. So, we've got to make sure that we're attacking him, because I think what you do, if you play a team like SIUE and you start settling for jump shot after jump shot after jump shot, and you don't attack the rim because of their shot blocking ability, then what you're going to be in is going to be for a long night unless you're knocking down those perimeter shots. Now,
in the game, when you beat them at the Vidal Bean Center January 28th, you go 23 of 28 from the free throw line. No surprise that Jamal Calvin's 7 of 9, excellent free throw shooter. No surprise that Joel Angus is 6 for 6. He's a good free throw shooter. In fact, several times when there have been technical fouls, you send Joel to shoot the free throws. He's solid from the line. The surprise in the game was Trey Kellum, 8 for 11. Has not been, a 75+% free throw shooter as he was that night. And he was unable to help you at Murray State on Saturday night because he's going through concussion protocol. How big was that loss against Murray State, and do we have any idea if Trey Kellum can help you Thursday night?
Yeah, it was anytime you lose a starter, first of all, it's a huge deal. But not just like a starter, but a guy for us that, beyond that, we just don't have any experience on our front line besides Joel Angus. And Joel's played junior college basketball, but this is his first year playing Division I college basketball. So if you look at the people that you bring in behind Trey Kellum, you're talking Tony Anderson, freshman, Jalen Stewart, freshman, Kyle Gullett, a walk-on freshman. So you just don't have any sort of size or experience behind Trey. So I think it's a huge deal. In regards to where he is, we have no idea until he continues to pass, the concussion protocol. And right now, he's not even get to the point where he's able to get on the court and do anything at this point in time. So, once he passes his baseline test, the next step for him was be able to go on the court and do jogging only. And then he goes from like jogging, straight line jogging, or getting on the treadmill to like 5-on-0 non-contact. So anything he can do skill work wise, things like that, non-contact, and then finally contact. And this is all being said and done if he has any sort of a bad reaction where he wakes up with a headache the next day or something like that, it goes back and starts all over again. So, obviously you want to make sure you're erring on the side of caution anytime you're talking about any injury, but especially with a brain injury, concussion, you got to be extra careful about that. It's something we take very seriously. But we have no idea where he'll be at come Thursday.
And guys react differently. You had a player who was in concussion protocol, Eric McGill, earlier this year, and he came out okay.
Right, correct. And everybody is different. So, it's just something you just don't know until you actually go through it.
What happened? How did the injury occur?
Well, I believe from watching tape that he actually got elbowed by our own player, by Joel, on a rebound. So I think they both were going for a rebound. And Joel kind of Trey got tossed around a little bit. And while Joel was going up for the rebound, when he came down, I think he actually got elbowed by Joel.
So Trey Kellum is question mark for the game on Thursday with SIU Edwardsville. It's interesting because they have a really good shooter. His name is Barak Eslik. He is from Istanbul, Turkey. He had a 40-point game earlier this year against Morehead State. He hit 7 threes. Now, they didn't win the game, but 40 points. And then he comes out and pumps in 29 in their win over Eastern Illinois. Never left the floor, played 40 minutes. But it's interesting. He's putting up his points and is a good three-point shooter, but he's not top 15 in the league in made threes. He's not top 15 in the league in three-point percentage, but he has his streaks where he goes through shooting the three. He went 12 for 12 from the free throw line, 5th in the league in free throw shooting. He can do some things about getting to the line a little differently than what you saw with Jeffrey Moss on Saturday night, right?
Correct. I think he's a guy that's not just a catch and shoot guy, but he's a guy that can create some things off the bounce. He's really good as far as attacking the basket, and we call it a pro hop, where you end up changing direction while you're driving the basketball before you want to. So he's a guy that can draw fouls. He gets to the free throw line. He's got a Euro game to him where, he kind of Manu Ginobili, just kind of drops the shoulder and flails a little bit and, gets that contact and things like that. So he's a very crafty basketball player, but he can use his shot to set up his drives. But he's also a good enough driver that you can't just play him strictly as a shooter.
You're probably being kind when you say he flails a little bit. He flails a lot. And he's one of those guys that, not only the flailing, but it's like, what just happened? This is, I may lose an appendage a la, soccer. You see guys go down like they're shot and there was hardly any contact. How do you defend a guy like that who is constantly looking for the whistle?
Yeah, I think first of all, you talk to your guys about not grinding him. And what I mean by that is, like, I think you get one bump in college basketball, but if you constantly bump them and grind them the whole way, you're going to get the foul call. And then more important, with a guy like, him, you've got to make sure that you get off that contact right away. So we talked to our guys about, like, hey, you can't just continue to give ground. At some point in time, you got to stand your ground. But at the same time, you can't grind him or ride him because he's going to do that. The other thing is you say to your officials too, is like, hey, now watch it now, because we think that we're playing sound defense here and don't go for the flailing of the arms and the theatrics. Just watch the actual physical contact.
But if you say that to him, you could get teed up before the game even started. You just can't say some things, apparently.
Yeah, you would hope that that's not the case. But, if that happens, I'd be surprised. But, I've been surprised before.
How surprised were you when you saw that John Calipari got run 146 seconds into the game at South Carolina on Saturday? First, he got one tee, Then he protested the tee, and the same official teed him up. What were your thoughts on that? And I've heard several former college coaches say, I believe in college basketball. And they each say, hey, this is strictly coming from a coach's perspective. I believe when a technical foul is called on a coach, that official needs to extricate himself from the proceedings. And if a second technical is going to be called, it should not be called by the guy who's heated. It should be called by one of the other guys, and it should not be called by that same official. First of all, your thoughts on the Calipari incident, and do you at all agree with some of that diagnosis about the second technical coming from the same official, who, by the way, issued 2 more technical fouls later in the game after Calipari got ejected?
Yeah, first of all, I was texting with Cal later that night, and just
you're dropping names on it.
No, we're just. I mean, first of all, like, everybody has this negative perception of Cal. Like, I got to tell you, man, he was by far the most encouraging, like, opposing coach in the SEC, besides Konzo, who had a pre-existing relationship with, than anybody else. I mean, he wanted, like, you to do well. He wanted. I mean, really, there's no threat to Kentucky. You know, like, if Mississippi State is doing well, it's good for the SEC and it's good for the rest of the conference. But, you know, Mississippi State's success is not going to, like, stop him from getting 5-star recruits and things like that. So, you know, he was the most encouraging guy, like, as far as, like, sending texts, giving you a call after win, getting a recruit and things like that. So I had a great relationship with him and continue to do that. So I texted him afterwards and said, hey, great win, you know, and he just says, like, you know, he feels really good about his team because he now feels like his team doesn't need him in order to be successful. And I think as coaches, that's what we're all looking for. We're looking for, you know, your team to step up and take ownership of the team, and you not be the driving force as far as, like, the emotional, you know, support and, you know, getting your guys to play hard and getting them emotionally ready where they need to be at. You want that to come from somebody on the team or the whole team. So I thought he felt great about it because it proved that they didn't need him in order to win. But in regards to the second part of that is, I think it depends on what type of official or referee that you are. You know, I think that if you can go into that situation after you give that first technical and be able to understand that this coach is probably not going to be calm at this point in time, you're going to have to kind of have some thick skin a little bit, but you can go over there and resign to the fact that you're not going to give them a second technical and let them kind of express themselves a little bit, although they may be a little belligerent or demonstrative, knowing that you're not going to give them a second technical, then obviously you should be able to go over there and talk to them. But I think if you're not that type of person and you're going to kind of get you know, not have thick skin about what they might say or some of their actions, then you probably need to let a different official go over there and deal with them at that point in time.
And by the way, there is some history with that official in Calipari. He was an official this year when they lost at Kansas. He was an official when they lost to Wisconsin in the national semifinals last year. So they've been involved in you know, very high-profile games in the past, and it was a good win for the University of Kentucky. All right, I wanted to let everybody know about these fantastic finishes that we had in the Ohio Valley Conference on Saturday night. First of all, Belmont ends up losing a game at Morehead State, and this one came down to the wire. Morehead wins at 78-77. Belmont had a 1-point lead when 9 seconds on the clock when Anthony Alecci stepped to the line and hit 2 free throws for Morehead State to put them up by 1. Craig Belmont, their star player for Belmont, his last shot was off the mark, and here is Belmont upset at Morehead State. So they had just taken the lead on Tennessee Tech in the standings. Tech had beaten Belmont, so they were feeling good about themselves. Then Tech loses to Tennessee State, so Belmont is in charge. They control their own destiny to win the Eastern Division of the OVC, and they go to Morehead State and lose by 1 point.
Well, I'll say this. I don't think that Morehead State is per se the best team in the OVC, but I think they're the most difficult team to play against because of their style of play on the defensive end. The way they switch all screens and the way they play with physicality and how hard they're playing, their run and jump and things like that. As far as like getting prepared for that, there's no way you can simulate that in practice. And so going into that situation, especially like a team like Belmont who relies on ball screens in order to be able to score and throwing the ball inside, well, Moorhead has two things to combat that. One is they trap everything on a post trap. And the second part of it is they switch all the ball screens anyway. And so they're used to not, so you don't get the pick and pop action that you normally get, against Belmont, because that's what they do. They kind of put you in a bind because of their ball screen action. So Moorhead is really, really difficult to prepare for against that. And so it doesn't surprise me that a team as good as Belmont will go in and lose at Moorhead State. To me, that's really not an upset.
So then Tennessee Tech has an opportunity. All right, now we're back even with Belmont, tied in the loss column. Here they are at home where they're undefeated, 12-0. Jacksonville State comes limping in, and the game is tied at 70. Final seconds of the game, Torrance Rowe, the great point guard for Tennessee Tech, fires a three at the buzzer. It's off the mark. We're going to overtime. No, what? A foul called as Rowe's launching a three at the buzzer. They go and review the film and said, yes, there was a foul before the shot. 0.7 seconds need to be put on the clock. Rowe goes to the line. Tennessee State escapes 72-70. So Tennessee Tech almost was upset by Jacksonville State. Maybe a season-defining, escape for Tennessee Tech. You don't see many fouls called on a three-point shooter launching one at the buzzer.
Yeah, cardinal rule in basketball, never foul a jump shooter. I mean, that's something that's preached, ad nauseum to all the basketball players. And, ever since you get into high school is don't foul jump shooters. And so for that to happen at the end of the game really must have been difficult, for that coaching staff.
And then UT Martin takes its 4-game winning streak, and they're charging. They're in second place, right behind Murray State in the OVC West, and their final game of the year is at Murray State. So they'll probably decide it on the floor. But here's UT Martin trailing in overtime at Austin Peay, down by 2 points. Jacoby Mobley from Starkville, Mississippi, a guy that you knew all about when he was in high school. He fires a three literally at the buzzer. It goes in, and they win by 1 point, and they escape and continue their winning streak. They've now won 5 games in a row. Another fabulous finish.
Yeah, I think in any situation where you end up winning any sort of a championship, you need some luck. I mean, there's always going to be some sort of a situation where, you need some luck in order to get through that. And so I didn't get a chance to see the actual play, but Jacoby is more than a capable shooter. He's a guy that can make some shots. But once again, just a tough way to lose a basketball game.
All right, and that puts UT Martin squarely in the crosshairs of Murray State. UT Martin 7-5, Murray State 8-5, so they're tied in the loss column. And the final game of the year, the final 2 games, Murray State goes to Eastern Illinois, who's just a game back. And then their final game is at home against UT Martin. So the 2 teams they're trying to fight it out in the West with, it's going to come down to those 2 games. I like how the schedule plays out for the way that things are set up in the West.
Yeah, there's no question about it. We talked about it earlier. You want to have a chance to control your own destiny. You don't want to rely on somebody else beating someone in order for you to win that conference championship. So that's great that it works out that way for them.
And Belmont, their final 3 games at Eastern Kentucky, at home against Tech, so they get one more matchup with Tech. That could decide things. And then it is Tennessee State, and that is going to be a road game. They're both in Nashville, but it will be a road game, for Tennessee State. And they are charging in the OVC East. They are 9-3, so they're tied in the loss column with Belmont and Tennessee Tech. I mean, we're going to have tremendous finishes here.
Yeah, and I thought when we played Tennessee State, and I haven't had a chance to watch them much on tape since we played them, but I thought that was the most complete basketball team that we had played in the OVC. I think there's some teams that's better than them offensively, but as far as like the complete package of, offense, defense, perimeter guys, post guys, I thought that Dana's done an unbelievable job with that team, and I thought that was the most complete team that we had played thus far.
So we don't know who's going to win the East. we don't know who's going to win the West. It's coming right down to it. There have been years where Murray State went undefeated last year, where it's just a runaway and there's really, no drama at all. This is as much drama as you can have. And with the way that it's set up for the tournament, say Murray State or UT Martin wins the league with 5 or 6 losses, fewer than maybe a Tech or a Belmont or even a Tennessee State, it doesn't matter. They get a double bye to the semifinals. What an advantage that is. Now, in years past, last year, Murray 16-0, they should get a double bye. But you could have a worse record than maybe 2 or 3 teams in the Eastern Division if you're in the West and get a double bye to the semifinals.
Yeah, but I think you should get rewarded for winning your side. I mean, that's my own personal opinion. I know some people may differ based on. I know there's a lot of people that want to do the reseeding of like the NBA playoffs because there's so many teams in the West that have such better records than the team in the East. I know there's a big controversy of, I think last year, San Antonio Spurs had a better record than somebody who won their actual division. And so, but they actually got the home court advantage because of that reason. They end up changing that rule. So, but to me, it still makes a difference when you win your division or win your side of a conference.
All right, so here we go. Literally down the stretch, you get 2 more home games, and before we talk to you next week, it will be the home season will be over. It's SIU Edwardsville Thursday, and then Eastern Illinois fighting for a championship on the west side of the OVC coming in on Saturday. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, SIU, just the fact that they just went on the road and won a huge game against a team the caliber Eastern Illinois just goes to show you what they're capable of. So we've got to make sure we're prepared. And once again, the best thing that we have is our own tape. So we'll be able to go back and show our guys what worked, what didn't work. And obviously SIUE has made some changes as far as like even their personnel with the switch up in the point guard, and they're running a couple different new sets. So we've got to be prepared for those new things and those new and they're going to do the same thing we're doing. It's not like they don't have the same tape and they're going to be prepared for us and what we're going to do. So we have that advantage. And I think against Eastern Illinois, I mean, we've got to guard them. I mean, I just thought that Trey Anderson we didn't guard him. I mean, the only way we guarded him was when he got in foul trouble and he only played 26 minutes. My goodness, if he'd have played 32 minutes to 34 minutes, I don't know what he would have done against us.
At one spot, he was on pace for 50.
Yes. I mean, so we've got to guard him, and we got to do a better job of not just individual defense, but also surrounding him and making it hard for him to get his points. He's a good player now. There's no question about that.
But he's not that good.
But we made him to be an NBA All-Star, and we've got to be better individual defenders.
All right. It'll be Thursday night at the Show Me Center, 7 o'clock tip-off with the Cougars from SIU Edwardsville. Can't wait for that. And then Hall of Fame weekend. So we'll have Hall of Famers in the house, so that'll be fun. You'll get a chance to meet some of the all-time greats at Southeast Missouri State.
Well, I think it's always, an unbelievable benefit when you have people that have had success at Southeast Missouri State, no matter what the sport is, come back and be a part of being on campus. And sometimes, for their families and for them, they haven't been here a while, so they haven't seen the updates to the Show Me Center. They haven't seen the new building on campus. And so I think that's always a special time when you get a chance to bring Hall of Famers back on campus.
I know a few weeks back, Con Cotton, who's a name people will remember from the past around here, he came back to the Show Me Center, tapped me on the shoulder. I got a chance to talk with him. He didn't know, he had his kids with him. There's a full-length mural of his photo there hanging in the entryway of the Show Me Center. He got a picture of that with his kids. It was an exciting thing for him. He couldn't believe what the Show Me Center looked like. I mean, that's all a part of it.
Yeah, now, Con, the full disclosure here, Con was fully aware that there was a picture hanging of him, a banner there, because I known Con. Con is from Little Rock, Arkansas there, and the guy that was an assistant for me at Mississippi State, Wes Flanagan, is also from Little Rock. So I had a chance to have a pre-existing relationship with Con. When I got the job here, I actually called Con. So I sent him a picture of the banner hanging there. So, Con likes the extra prize that he doesn't know that his banner is hanging from the Show Me Center.
And one of his great moments was when I think it was his senior year. They go to Arkansas State. He hits a buzzer beater in Jonesboro, in his home state of Arkansas, to beat Arkansas State. He was a great player. Be great to see the Hall of Famers this Saturday, but first it starts Thursday, 7 o'clock against the Cougars. Coach, we'll see you then. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric.
That's Coach Rick Ray. That's going to do it. Colfeld Distributing Redhawks Coaches Show. ESPN Radio is coming up. So long, everybody, from Wings in Cape.